There's a lot of LEGO sets retiring in 2024, but some are simply better than others. So here's the pick of the crop, the ones you don't want to miss out on from each theme before they're gone. Now I'm going to go mostly alphabetically and timestamps are below, but I want to just start with this, the Super Mario question mark block, because unlike most of the sets that are on this list, which are going to be retiring by December, the end of the year, this one is going next month, okay? July 2024, this will be retired and it's already on back order in the States. In other regions such as the UK, it's already sold out. Obviously, other retailers do it as well. It's not an exclusive, so you can pick it up elsewhere. But it's fun, it's iconic being the question mark block. I think it's the best one from the Super Mario line. And if you're interested, the forecasted ROI on this over the next 3 years is around 30%. So if that's your thing, it doesn't look too bad from that point of view either. And of course, a quick mention for Series 26 of the collectible minifigure series. If you haven't yet got a complete set and you're still wanting it, get a move on. These will be retiring around August, making way for Series 27 in September, which will be Dungeons and Dragons. Okay then, so alphabetically, let's start with architecture. There are a couple of sets retiring this year, but the best one has to be the Taj Mahal. It's just such a beautiful looking set. Surpassed now, I do think, by Notre Dame, which I prefer even more. But this is the only one from the architecture line that comes close to it, in my opinion, for wonderful detail both inside and out. Just such a marvellous thing to have on display. On back order again in quite a lot of places, and just bear in mind, with all of these, although this is retiring in December, the caveat to that is if it sells out first. So yes, it's on back order, I'm sure it will come back into stock, but just because it's down for retirement in December, if we get to October, November time and it sells out by then, that is it. So just bear that in mind, that goes for all of the sets on this list. And if you're interested, ROI over the next 3 years on this one is forecasted to be around 30 to 35%. Moving on, we come to Batman. And perhaps a bit controversial including this one because its popularity was certainly mixed, but I think it's fair to include it in my best choices purely because the whole DC Batman theme had been going rather stale until the revamp that we've just had. I mean, the likes of the Gotham City art set I think is fantastic. But until then, it was going a bit stale, and this was just something definitely different and impressive to have, as well as being just a simply fun building experience. It's quite enjoyable actually putting this one together. But that will be gone by December as well. ROI on that, about 20%. A better return on investment, around 25%, is on this one, the Shadow Box. I mean, look, I'd never buy it for that. I just think it's a pretty cool build. It does take up quite a lot of space, a bit overpriced in my opinion as well. But for any hardcore fans out there of the dark Caped Crusader, this really is the ultimate collector's set. But of course, we've got those new Batman sets coming through. Mixed opinions on them, I know, so let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But this will be going by the end of the year. Right, a quick pit stop then at Brickheadz, and the Phantom Menace set is also going to be going. Hasn't been out long, and quite frankly, one of the best Brickhead sets I think we've had in a long time. Each of these characters is just so brilliantly done. Literally one of my favourite Brickheads, full stop. I think it's absolutely superb. So seriously, don't miss out on this one. I'm not just talking about an ROI. The Brickheads generally always do pretty well in that regard. These ones, have no doubt, are going to be definitely sought after. I'm a Brickheads fan. I just want them for myself. So if you're like me, you need to have these ones in your collection. They're seriously good, you won't be disappointed, and they haven't had a long shelf life, so grab those before they retire. Likewise for the Harry Potter Prisoner of Azkaban ones, not as good, given my thoughts on these in the past, couple of weaker characters in here, but still a nice addition to the collection. Those are going to be retiring as well, and also some of the Lord of the Rings sets, including this one, Gandalf the Grey and the Balrog, that's going to be going. As is Aragorn and Arwen, they are also retiring by the end of the year. So's Frodo and Gollum, but I just simply didn't think they were very good, so won't be featuring them. But these I will be, okay? Legolas and Gimli only just come out, of course, in June alongside Barad-dûr. We've been awaiting for these ones a long time. They are also down for retirement in December. I was slightly surprised by that. I'd like to think that they might actually tick on over into 2025, but as it stands, these are down to go this year. So definitely get them before they're gone. Normal price on all of these, of course, but not expensive, even as a Christmas gift. Brilliant couple of Brickheads, so yeah, don't be disappointed. Really hasn't been out all that long. Moving now, though, on to City. There are loads of sets that are retiring. I've got a couple of picks, the first one being our Deep Sea Explorer submarine. Look, most people want it for the large shark. Lots of individual sales for that on Bricklink, eBay. You know, though, as a whole, I still think it's one of the better sets that we've had from the recent City Waves. It's just good fun, decent minifigure lineup, looks good on display, but of course there's just a fantastic amount of playability as well. So if you're thinking of getting one as a gift, do it for yourself or for kids to really enjoy. It's pretty sizable, good amount of fun to have. It seems a bit of an obvious thing to say to try and get it discounted, but seriously with this one, it is a little bit overpriced, I do feel. So if you can pick it up for less, definitely deserves to be on the list. Just really good fun. Same story for the Command Rover and Crane Loader. It's not terribly priced, but it's a reasonable size, interesting build parts to this, and just offers fantastic playability. So scores super highly in that regard for this. Really fun set this, and will be appreciated as a gift, I'm sure. But my top picks are two that are much smaller. The return of Johnny Thunder in our Jungle Explorer here, only $11, pretty much affordable for everyone. Obviously has that new red panda in it as well. I think for the money, this is a super little set, and actually I'd like to see LEGO do more like this. Okay, the little side build is a bit pathetic, but give somewhere for the red panda to go. Most of the fun, though, is in that vehicle. Great to have the minifigure and that new panda mold. So I would like to see LEGO do a lot more fun little sets like this in this sort of price range. Definitely one of the best ones, but equally won't have been out for too long either. That'll be gone by the end of the year. The best one for me, though, is this, the Jungle Explorer Waterplane. $23. Fantastic value, actually. We get the two adult crocs or gators or crocodigators. Let's go with that. The little baby one as well. Nice little bit of side habitat too. Again, it's, you know, I'm not going to complain. For the money, just throwing that in there as well, great. Decent minifigure too, but that plane, yes, the wings could have been a little bit bigger. That would have been better. But that's easy to add on afterwards. Just get a couple of plates and pop those on to extend the wings. I'm seriously surprised that this is so cheap. I'd have thought they would have priced this $30, maybe even $35. It would be overpriced at $35, but the way things have been recently, I'd almost expect it. I think $30 is pretty fair. $23, it's not often that I say this, it's an absolute steal. Thank you, LEGO. Brilliantly priced, fantastic set, looks great, super fun. Oh, and I forgot to mention the frog as well. If the crocs don't do it for you, the Alacrocs, the crocogators, go for the little frog. Apologies to my amphibian friends out there for excluding that, but this is the best city set that is retiring this year, and it hasn't been out for long either. Grab it, don't miss out. Moving on now to Creator. Lots of sets retiring, but only one makes it as a best pick. It is, of course, the Medieval Castle. Highly underrated. Here was a home for the Black Falcons. Yes, of course, we've had the Bricklink Mountain Fortress. I've been lucky enough to be able to order one. I know a lot of people have missed out on it, selling already for crazy prices on the secondary market, and trying to compare it to this is totally unfair. It's apples and oranges. But for what this is, given the fact you can get 3 different builds out of it, it actually looks pretty impressive when you've got it on display. Lots of people were buying 2 or 3 copies to mock up much bigger castles, and that's a great thing to do if you can afford it. But quite frankly, even just one on its own, in any of these setups, especially the main one, it still is pretty sizable. I think this picture shows that fairly well. Even if you put it on display next to the likes of the Lion Knight's castle, yes, it's smaller, but it doesn't look stupid. It's definitely not out of place. What makes it even better is that lots of other retailers have been selling this quite nicely discounted across different regions, as I've covered in Deals of the Week videos in the past. So if for any reason you've been put off by the fact that it's a Creator 3-in-1 set, perhaps some watching therefore haven't taken it fully seriously, or think that maybe it's too small, I don't think it's bad for the price, but if you can pick it up on a bit of a discount, don't kid yourself, it is a great one to get, but it's not going to be available for that much longer. Okay, moving on to Disney, I've picked 2 sets. Don't forget you can skip ahead using the timestamps, but bear with me on this one. There are an awful lot of princessy style Disney sets out there, and a huge amount of them are horrendously overpriced. This certainly isn't cheap, but the reason I want to include it as the best to get is for any parents watching, instead of spending an exorbitant amount of money on all of the much smaller sets that LEGO are doing in this sort of range, which simply don't offer that much fun, the kids are going to get bored of pretty quickly, and yet are still super expensive. If you can, it's much better to actually forget those, pay a bit extra if you can, and buy this, because it is so much more sizable. There's a lot more going on. It's interesting to build. Okay, kids are going to learn more doing that as well. There's so much space in the back, different places to play, decent lineup of minifigures as well, and it just is so much more sizable, as you can see here. So I think this offers kids a lot more entertainment value. They're going to play with it for a lot longer. They can learn more as they build, and in that respect, it's actually much better value for money. So for that reason, I have to include it. I think it's the best that there's been in the Princess line for a long time. It's retiring once again come December, so even if it's for a Christmas gift, if you can afford it, I'd suggest getting this one. So much better than any of the others. And then my last choice for Disney is the villain icons. It's been devalued since having the Evil Queen put in with the Snow White set, so I wouldn't spend full price on this. Lots of other retailers have had it discounted. I think most recently Savvy Zavvy, but lots of different ones have. It's either your sort of thing or it isn't. I actually really quite like it. Kind of a sweet set in a way. Lots of fun stuff going on, and it is quite different from anything else that they've done. So don't go near it full price, that's my caveat, but discounted, it's refreshing and definitely one of the better sets that they've given us recently. Switching themes now though, it's time to head to DreamZzz. Quite a lot of sets that are retiring. Definitely one of the best ones was this, the Nightmare Shark ship. Just so out there, lots of interesting parts being used in here, including in colours that you don't normally get elsewhere. But it's actually a pretty cool looking thing, very sizable again. Highly adaptable, excellent amount of playability. I think there's a huge amount of fun to be had with this, not just for kids, but for adults as well. If you like stuff that's a little bit out there, perhaps a bit wacky, this is a super fun build. But the best one that is retiring is this, the Sandman's Tower. It's actually really pretty and very impressive in the way that it's put together. Again, there's fun to be had here if playability is what you're after, but don't be fooled. This is actually a really good looking display piece. Even if the minifigures and the way they're done aren't your thing, the overall build, just on its own, is impressive. Again, lots of nice parts and colours that we don't usually get, but also just simply one of the most beautiful looking LEGO sets that we've had in a long time. Fantastically put together, really quite stunning to have on display, and perhaps most importantly of all, a really decent price. And you can't say that too often. A couple for friends now though, and of course the Botanical Garden simply has to feature. Quite a lot of fans were going out and buying this, buying two in fact, and combining them together. It's just such a great idea. Forget the mini dolls if they're not your thing. This is one of the friend sets that just is so nicely put together. You can put this in a city, you can put minifigures with it instead of mini dolls. It won't look out of place. It's a frankly beautiful set. Of course, one of the upcoming LEGO Ideas sets is now a Botanical Garden. I wonder if they've chosen it off of the popularity of this, although because of that, it does seem a bit of a strange pick. Either way, once again at other retailers, this has been pretty heavily discounted. I think you'll find that even buying two of these and putting them together and then sticking minifigures in it is going to look just as good, arguably better, than the upcoming LEGO Ideas Botanical Garden set that they are bringing out. Okay, a cheaper way of doing it. And my final choice for friends is the hot dog food truck. Anything food truck related is great for a city, and don't be fooled by this. With just a couple of changes, this is a great one to integrate. If you don't want mini dolls, lose them. You can pop this in your minifig city setup. It still looks great. You don't have to have the stickers on there. I don't actually think they're too bad. What I would change is the colour here. So instead of having the pink, which just clashes, if you change those to yellow or red, i.e. for mustard or ketchup, whatever your preference, that is going to look a whole lot better. It will integrate then quite nicely into a city, and it's not a bad price either. I think this sort of stuff in actual city sets is too few and far between. So with just a couple of adjustments, it's a really good one to pick up. Okay, time to move on to the Boy Wonder Wizard. And it does pain me to include this. After all, this is my video on the best sets that are retiring in 2024, and personally, I think this is one of the worst. There's so much wrong with it. It really, really winds me up, but I'm not going to rant about that. I've done it in the past. For some people, this is exactly what it says on the tin, the collector's edition, the one that you have to have, and by that definition, it falls under the best. So whilst I simply cannot bring myself to buy it, don't want to endorse LEGO with the plethora of hideous mistakes that they've made, plenty will also disagree with me, and that is fine, because if this is for you, if you are a collector for whom this is your top pick, it's also down for retirement in December. Okay, for my better choices though for Harry Potter, Weasley's Wizard Wheezes. It's a really nice addition for the Diagon Alley lineup. It's not a bad price either for a good range of minifigures and just a decent sized display. Would have liked a little bit more space on the interior, but it's colourful, nicely detailed. It fits in pretty well with the actual Diagon Alley set lineup that you can get, and one of the strongest ones out of the more recent wave. And once again, hasn't been out that long either. Loads of other Harry Potter sets also retiring from the wave before this, but this one is also going to be going as well. However, my top pick is one that rather surprised me. The Forbidden Forest Magical Creatures set from the most recent wave, from the wave early this year, is also going to be gone by December. I do think this is quite underrated. Not only do we get a baby Thestral and Buttbeak the Hippogriff, it's the fact that these have the glow-in-the-dark elements that make it one of the sort of spookiest, coolest little sets that we've had from Harry Potter full stop. Not just this year. And once again, it's not a bad price, but also one that has been discounted by small amounts, but discounted nonetheless quite regularly since it's come out across all different regions. So I guess you can tell just by looking at it, it's either for you or it isn't. But for me, with the little characters you get and just that glow-in-the-dark element, it's one of the best little builds that we've had recently. Then on to Icons next, and the Holiday Main Street, an absolute must for anybody who wants to have a Lego Winter Village. This was a decent price set that is also going to be going by December. So it's your last chance for Christmas to be grabbing this. If you like to build your winter scenes, you simply don't want to miss out. It's an absolute must. Decent size as well, looks really good on display. Another that's pretty decent value for money. So been out a while now. Imagine most people who do want it probably have got it, but if you've been holding out, you're coming close to your last chance. And then I've picked Ghostbusters Ecto 1, obviously a bit more interest in this recently following the release of the latest film. It's certainly not perfect. There's not been enough Ghostbusters stuff, I don't think. And if you want to pick up older sets like the Fire Station now, you're going to have to pay through the nose to do it. So quite simply, if you're a fan, you'll want to pick that up before it's gone this year too. And then the Loop Coaster, another controversial one. It's hard for me to put this in a best of list simply because there's so much that goes wrong with it. It's very hard to put on display. It's too big. It's highly expensive. If you run it much at all, it starts to shake itself loose and just quite frankly is rather a pain of a set. However, there's one unarguable reason that this does have to be classed in a best lineup. It's quite simply the most impressive thing Lego have given us relating to the whole roller coaster theme park, and of course ones that you can actually power up. There's nothing else that they've given us like it in this scale. You know, I think it's too big for most people's homes, but if you do have the space, this is an absolute showstopper. There's no doubt about that. In that respect, it is one of the best sets. I simply don't have space really. It's one that I do want. I've even seen it discounted by, I don't know, sort of 20-30% in the past, certainly here in the UK, but I've still not got it. It's just too big, too flawed for me, but there's still part of me that really wants it. It is such a cool set. That's something I simply can't deny. There's quite a few other Icon sets that are also going to be going. One that I think deserves an honorary shout out is the NASA Space Shuttle Discovery. Lego's had such a push on space recently and will continue to do so into 2025. This was really impressive on back order again. Not bad from an investment point of view either if that's your deal. Around 30 to 35% over the next 3 years. But I just think a lot of collectors are going to want this one as well. It is a very nice one to be able to actually have on display. For me though, as a big Pirates fan, it's this, the El Dorado Fortress, that I'll be most sorry to see go. A wonderful recreation of the old set, which for most would now be unattainable, certainly in a new sealed format. I think it was a fantastic thing to revisit, lots of different build options, and does look fantastic when you've got it on show. So if you've been putting it off for any reason, don't be disappointed by missing out on this. It's one of my favourites that I've got on display, and fans of Pirates have gone without things for so long. Barracuda Bay coming obviously before it. This really is a must-have set, so get aboard before it sets sail. Moving on to Lego ideas though, there are lots of sets that are retiring by the end of this year. It's very much down to personal choice, of course, which should be chosen, but the Fender Stratocaster is just such a cool one. I kind of had to include it in the list, so that is going to be going. As is the tree house. I think, although underrated, it's one of the best that we've had in quite a while, just because it combines something that is a superb display piece with being pretty fun as well. It's nicely interactive, amusing details, popped around inside and out. It was refreshingly different whilst also being something that can be integrated into a whole Lego world if that's your sort of setup. So pretty great set all round, I think. But lastly, for ideas, I have to pick Sonic's. I'm, look, not very keen on any of the main Sonic sets that they do. They're far too juniorized for me, for want of a better word. I remember playing this back in the day, and having a Lego recreation, I just think is pretty awesome. So whilst the likes of the interactive loop challenge version of this, you know, where you hit the button and it sends him spinning, I get why that's probably more appealing to kids or younger Lego fans, but for me, this is the one and only that is worth collecting because it's quite nostalgic if you remember the video game. It's not terribly priced and is often discounted elsewhere outside of Lego, so quite simply, if you are a fan of the Blue Hedgehog, you should grab it before he races away into the distance. Then a quick pit stop at Indiana Jones. All of the sets are retiring this year. The best, of course, has to be this. It's the scene that is most remembered throughout all of the films. It's a really cool looking set to have on display. The fact that it's nicely interactive as well is good fun. You turn this, the boulder goes down and can come back up, knocks into this wall which flies off that way. This one has the sort of stone wall go up and down when you twist it. This one, whoever you want to position on here, can be swung back and forth. And of course this, depending on which way you turn it, either has a light come on that shines down on the idol or makes this part collapse. So there's lots of fun to be had in it. It's quite an interesting, clever little build in a way. Decent minifigs, could have done with some more of the natives, but it's sort of the one that you have to have. Moving to Jurassic World though, another theme with lots of sets retiring. I have to pick this simply because it is the visitor centre with the T-Rex. It's the one that's most associated with the film. You kind of have to have it. I am rather disappointed with it in the respect of it's really quite small. It's not worth the money. Do not buy it full retail. Why do I include it therefore? Well, if you can pick it up at the right price, it's the best because of what it depicts. It's fun to have the dinos. The visitor centre is too small, but it's still something that if you're a Jurassic Park fan, you have to have on display. You simply cannot not have this scene. So, if bought for a cheaper price, don't miss out on it before it retires. It's one of the best scenes to have depicted, even though the set itself definitely isn't the best that it could have been. For me, the outright winner, though, is this, the Dilophosaurus ambush. This is such a funny part of the film. It's the only time that we've had Dennis as a minifigure. The car is cool, so this is great for play as well. It's just overall a huge amount of fun and a really good price. If you're wanting to build up a little Jurassic Park or Jurassic World scene with all of the different main events being depicted in your display, you quite simply have to have this. And the way that Lego has done it, from the expressions they've given the character to the little build that we get, is simply one of the best that they have done. Now though, a last mention for Mario. Unlike the question mark block that I covered at the beginning of the video, this one is retiring in December. It's the Nintendo Entertainment System. I know it's going to have very mixed opinions. For some, this means absolutely nothing. But for others like me, who actually remember playing on this, it's just that nostalgic factor. It has been well done. Really quite a cool thing to have. I ummed and ahed over this for quite a long time. I felt the price was too much. I managed to pick it up on discount a while back. I can't really advise anybody to get this, I was going to say at full price, but at all really, unless this sort of means something to you. You'll simply know it if it does. And also very different from pretty much any of the other Super Mario sets that Lego have done or are likely to ever do again. So pretty unique in that way. Okay, on to Marvel now, and how could I possibly not pick I Am Groot? Simply one of the cutest and coolest buildable figures that we've had. Only the buildable Stitch that came out more recently surpasses this for me, but otherwise, such a fantastic character. Kind of fiddly to put together, hasn't got a great amount of articulation. You've got to position him just right so that he doesn't fall over. Otherwise can be a little bit annoying, but hey, regularly discounted elsewhere, really fun character to have. Both this version and the Venomized version are retiring. For me though, this original is simply the one to get. One of those sets that just makes me smile, a little bit like Groot here every time that I see it. Better than that though is the modular Sanctum Sanctorum, another one that's currently on back order via Lego at any rate for yourselves in the States, that are other places that also sell this as well, for cheaper by the way. But look, I know this came in for a little bit of a mixed rap. Some people didn't like the choice of minifigs. There are a couple of errors on the inside, but if we can put nitpicking aside, I think overall this is a really cool modular to have. I like it if LEGO would do more like this actually. It's been out for a while but hasn't had a hugely long shelf life compared to some others. I think it was August of 2022 this came out. Forecasted ROI over the next 3 years, sort of between 27 to 30%. So again, if that's your thing, not too bad. I just think it's a pretty cool build. The best of all though has to be this. I mean, come on, Star-Lord's helmet. Even if you're not a helmet fan, I don't care, get it anyway. It's quite simply the very best set from the Marvel theme that LEGO have ever done. Alright, maybe not, but given my channel name, I kind of have to have this as my top pick. And to be fair, it is pretty cool. Still on the letter M, we come to Miscellaneous. And there's 2 sets from New Year, which I think are brilliant. The first being the auspicious dragon here. It's obviously very colourful, there's not much movement to it, this is for static display. It's either your thing or it isn't. But thanks to the pieces that they've used, the printing, the colours chosen, it's such a fantastic dragon, wonderfully characterful, and of course will be gone by the end of this year to be replaced by next year's New Year set. I do expect that LEGO themselves are going to discount this down closer to the retirement date, so I would suggest keep an eye out for that. It's usually what happens, sort of 20 to 30% off, and at that point it's an absolute steal. It's decent at this price, so if they do reduce it, as they've done in the past, it's simply a no-brainer. And my opinion is the same for this one, the Family Reunion Celebration. Now, unfortunately it isn't modular. That said, it doesn't take too much to actually close up the back. You just have to make a few adaptations and then it can be done, just down to some of the shaping around here. There's already several videos on other channels that show you how to do that. But it's a brilliant addition to your city, not just in the build, but also a strong minifig lineup too. The outside of the build looks good. I said this in the review I did of it at the time, but what's really impressive is the interior. So many details throughout, huge amount of fun, and again, when you actually work this out on a price per piece basis, very reasonable. As for Monkie Kid, my pick of the ones retiring this year is the City of Lanterns. It's fun, it's quirky, it's super colourful, it's got a mini monorail, its own LEGO store. Here is a set that is just such a brilliant mix of cool display piece and fantastic fun when it comes to play. It's also reasonably priced again, something that definitely is not always the case when it comes to Monkie Kid, but in this instance it's a good size set, decent price to piece ratio as well. I wouldn't recommend it for investing. ROI over the next 3 years is only around 15%, and it's definitely not going to appeal to a lot of people. It's rather niche in that respect. But if this is the style that you like, and perhaps you're just wondering which of the sets to go for, it has to be this one. By far and away, it was the best of its wave, and there are just certain sets when you look at them and you build them and actually spend time interacting with them, you really appreciate the immense amount of time and effort and attention to detail that has been put into it. This is one of those sets. Of course, one that is perhaps a little more mainstream, Ninjago's City Gardens. Something else that works out really well on a price per piece basis. So many minifigures and just an absolutely stunning build to look at. It's chock-a-block packed full of elements for you to spend time playing around with. It's a really enjoyable build, so much fun to be had with it, but just overall an absolute showstopper. It really does look the part. Another one of the simply aesthetically best looking LEGO sets that we've been given in a long time. There's a lot of Ninjago sets that are retiring this year, but to my mind, without a shadow of a doubt, this is by far and away the best of them. Investment, if you're interested, high 20s, maybe 30% over the next 3 years is what's forecast. Personally, I don't really care. I just think it's such an amazing thing to actually own and have on display. So even if Ninjago's not your normal go-to theme, seriously consider this before it goes. It's an incredible set. Alternatively, if you do want a Ninjago set that's cheaper, this is an awesome dragon. It's not as good as the Source Dragon of Motion that we've just got in the latest wave, but discounting that, it's one of the best dragons Ninjago has given us. 2-in-1, so you've got the dragon and the mech versions. Decent price point as it is. Fairly regularly see this discounted at other retailers, as we've looked at in past videos. I just think whether you want a cool dragon for your own collection, or again, if you're after a gift that's not an unreasonable price and is going to have a lot of playability to it, great deal of entertainment, good size, this is one you want to be picking up. Too many small Ninjago builds that are overpriced. you know, that simply won't have the entertainment value there for a particularly long period of time. This, I think, would keep kids entertained for quite a while. Moving on, a quick pit stop at Speed Champions. It's very difficult to say what's best when it comes to this. Quite a few retiring this year. I can't really pick any of them out. However, the obvious one to feature is the Countach, simply because we've now got that Icons version of it, which is obviously a lot bigger, a lot more detailed, but also a great deal more expensive, and it's certainly not perfect. There are quite a few errors throughout. I know, again, it's kind of comparing apples and oranges, but very simply, if you do want a Lego white Lamborghini Countach, I kind of got to go for the Speed Champions one. I think it's way better value for money, albeit a heck of a lot smaller and less detailed. It's just so much better value for money than the Icons one that they're bringing out. It's just my personal opinion. I'm not saying I think the Icons one is bad. It's just a shame they chose to do the same colour. I suspect that's a Lamborghini thing, probably more than Lego, but there were definitely fairly obvious flaws with it. So for me, all of the Speed Champions are fairly equal, but given what they've chosen to bring out now for the Icons range, I'd be getting this one before it retires this year. Now, next up is Star Wars, but because there's a few of those, I want to take a quick look at Technic, because I've got one choice for that, and it is this. Not a huge amount of Technic sets retiring, there are a few. This is one of the biggies. I know that it's quite niche, but anything farm related, agricultural stuff, I think we simply do not have enough of in Lego. I'd like to see more of it in the City line, I'd like to see more of it in Technic as well. It's something as a sub-theme that I just feel they need to do a lot more of. All the more reason that I have to call out this really impressive build that we got given here. I find the Technic sets really interesting to put together, always pretty much learn something. It's the fact that not only is it cool on display, it's interactive with the working parts, it's just fun to play with as well, no matter how old you are. It may say 11 plus on the box, but let me tell you, I like playing with these, and I know I'm not alone in that respect. So if you like Technic builds, don't miss out on this one if you haven't got it already, and if it's something that you haven't really got into and maybe you're considering it, you could do a lot worse than starting with this bad boy. Now though, let's head to a galaxy and a set, the retirement of which is no longer far, far away. This is, of course, the Millennium Falcon 75257. I do really like the Starship Collection MIDI-scale Millennium Falcon that we've just been given, but I still say that this is my favourite. I think that the level of detail for the size on this was just right. I'm sure most of us Star Wars fans would really like to have the UCS one, but it's just so big, not to mention expensive, very hard to find a place for it. On a much smaller scale, this has superb attention to detail in it. It's a really fun set. I do think it'd be a real shame to miss out on it. Of course, it has had a long shelf life now, been out since 2019. I still feel this is going to be sought after in the years to come. It's just such a good version of it. Moving on to the big one though, yes, the UCS 8080 is going to walk off into the sunset come December, unless it sells out beforehand. Look, it's a massive price, unaffordable for a lot of people, and even if you can afford it, the space issue is kind of a problem, you know, as in where you can put it, because this is a big build. Just so super cool though, every collector wants to have this, and time is running out. Forecasted ROI around 28 to 30% over the next 3 years. That's going to put it even further out of reach for a lot of people. So if you've been saving up, if you've been umming and ahhing, if you've been wondering whether to pull the trigger, time is swiftly coming where you need to make that decision. Now, just a quick mention for this one, I don't really feel like it's a best as far as this list goes. The 8080 certainly was. Personally, I was a little bit let down about this, rather disappointed. Personal feelings aside, however, the UCS Land Speeder is also going to be retiring this year. I wouldn't pay full price for it. You shouldn't need to. There's been loads of opportunities to pick this up for cheaper on other retailers. But yeah, just to let you know, that one is also going to be going. However, one that I think everybody should have is this, the Master Builders Mos Eisley Cantina. Yes, it is also going, and seriously is one you do not want to miss out on. Such a brilliant, fantastic set to have. No Star Wars collection should be without this. Not just for what it represents, but the way that it has been done as well. We've got a superb minifigure lineup. The build is spectacular inside and out. Such an enjoyable thing to put together as well, and once you do have it finished, whether you want to play with it yourself, because I won't blame you if you do, playability is high on it, but if you just want to have it for display, there's very few sets, not just within Star Wars, but across all of the themes that can match up to this. It is superb. superb. And frankly, I'd really like LEGO to give us more like this. So I suspect that many will have picked this up around May, along with the big Star Wars offers that were on, but if for any reason you didn't, you've got 6 months left, unless of course it sells out beforehand, in order to get it, and I'm fairly confident in saying you won't be disappointed if you do. I mean, if you buy this and you are disappointed, I think what you should actually do is go and invest in some psychotherapy sessions, because there's going to be something wrong with you. Anyway, those are my picks for the best sets across all the LEGO themes retiring this year. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and check out one of these 2 videos next for some more LEGO-y goodness. Catch you on the next one.